One of the most recognizable tools in ceremonial magic is the angelic seal. If you've spent any amount of time looking through grimoires or books on angel magic, you've undoubtedly come across them. Even if you haven't, though, you'd still recognize them as they've become something of a trope in occult-themed horror movies, although those are often fictionalized inventions and usually representations of demonic rather than angelic seals. But as we only work with entities of the highest order of the light here at the Transformative Alchemist, we won't be exploring that path. Regardless, to someone unfamiliar with ceremonial work, seals can seem as mysterious and perhaps even as intimidating as they are beautiful. However, these symbols are far more than just decorative pieces of art. And today we'll be exploring what angelic seals are, why magicians use them, and most importantly, how you can create your own for ritual work. Before we begin, there's a couple points I'd like to clarify. The first is that when working with angelic entities, we are not worshiping them. That praise is reserved for the Almighty, the one true divine source. Instead, angels can be thought of as intermediaries. Now, I work very closely with the feminine aspect of Archangel Uriel, and she, without question, is my most beloved among the angelic host. She's a friend, mentor, and confidant, but she is not God. In fact, before parting ways after having worked with her, I make it a point for us to simultaneously give praise to the divine and synchronized worship. Incidentally, I also do this with the four archangels invoked during the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, which is a very powerful experience, and I do highly recommend it. Yeah, it's really something. The second clarification is the difference between a seal and a sigil. These two terms are often thought of as being synonymous, but there is actually a slight distinction. Sigil is usually created by reducing a statement of intent, that is the desired outcome of a magical working, into a graphical symbol. Now, while these symbols may look abstract, they are actually constructed through specific methods. If you're interested in working with them, Practical Sigil Magic by Freighter UD is a wonderful resource. Anyhow, though, I've had great success working with sigils over the years, so I'm certainly not trying to detract from their value here. I'm simply seeking to clarify. Uh, Whereas a sigil represents the practitioner's desire, a seal, on the other hand, usually identifies a particular spiritual being with whom you're seeking communion. Now, some might argue that splitting hairs and that it's simply a matter of semantics, but I still felt it was important to clarify the terminology we'll be using in today's episode. The other point I wanted to make for moving on is that even though they can be used for the construction of talismans and amulets, an angelic seal in and of itself is not a magical object. In its most basic form, it isn't a battery storing supernatural energy, nor is it an object that will force angelic intelligence to appear. Um, Instead, a seal is a spiritual point of contact, kind of like a cosmic phone number. You can call that number, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there will be an immediate answer. And that's actually very important. Uh, while we certainly can work with angelic intelligences, it's the height of arrogance and hubris to assume that we command or control them. That ability is reserved for God and God alone. Instead, a seal simply serves as a focal point which aligns the practitioner's mind and energies with the qualities and presence represented by that angel. So, how do you actually use an angelic seal? As is often the case, the simplest method is also one of the most effective. You'll want to place the seal where it naturally becomes the center of your ritual. Now, this could be on your altar if you're using one, beneath a candle, within a triangle of art, or even held in your hands as you meditate. Because I work with them on a regular basis, I actually have seals for the four archangels of the cardinal directions placed upon the corresponding walls in our home. There's Raphael on the east-facing wall, Michael to the south, Gabriel to the west, and Uriel to the north. The most important thing here, though, is your relationship with the seal. It should help you concentrate your attention rather than distracting it. Now, when your eyes rest upon the symbol, don't merely stare at the lines and curves. Contemplate the virtues associated with that angel. If it's a seal for Michael, reflect on protection. If Raphael, healing. Chamuel for inner peace, Uriel for divine guidance and illumination, and so on. Whatever quality the angel embodies, you use the seal to help invite those qualities into your own consciousness. So a bit of angelology and research skills definitely comes into play, as you wouldn't want to petition, say, Archangel Haniel for justice when that falls under Raguel's sphere of influence. Well, now, all that's well and good, Flumen, you may be thinking, but how are they actually made? Well, not surprisingly, different traditions have utilized different techniques. Some construct, I am having trouble talking today, but some construct seals from sacred alphabets such as Hebrew, Theban, Celestial, or Enochian. Others are constructed by using magical squares or through specific number or letter correspondences. Because I have old school tendencies and like honoring traditions, however, the example we'll be working with today was taken from historical grimoires and has been used for centuries. Now, some practitioners may dismiss this as being uncreative, as you're simply copying a seal, but honestly, I find that act can actually become a devotional practice in and of itself. As you slowly reproduce every line, your attention and therefore your energy naturally becomes focused on the angel the seal represents, and the process itself becomes honestly meditational. Now, this is why, regardless of the method you use, you'll want to take your time, work carefully, and approach the process with both intention and reverence. Now, I don't mean that every single line has to be exactly straight. Uriel isn't going to care if if one line is slightly crooked or a little wiggly. Now remember, you're not simply making artwork, you're creating a symbolic vessel through which your consciousness can repeatedly enter into a relationship with divine intelligence. So it's that focus and intention that matters more than the exact precision of the seal that you draw. It should go without saying that the first step is identifying the seal for the angel you'll be working with. However, I said it anyway. Anyhow, if you don't have copies of old grimoires lying about or reference books on angelology, A good source for your research here is there's my trouble speaking again. The Occult Encyclopedia webpage, which I will provide a link to in the comments. It's really an invaluable resource. But remember when I said earlier that sigil and seal are often used interchangeably? Well, this is one of those situations. I tend to find the information I'm looking for more quickly by searching the site for Uriel sigil rather than Uriel seal, for example. Another point is some seals, such as the one for Metatron, which features Metatron's cube, are extremely complex. So for the sake of simplicity, I'll be creating a seal for Archangel Jophiel for this demonstration, as it's honestly among the less detailed examples. Now, as far as materials go, this is where I tend to break from historical tradition. The instructions in grimoires often involved forging them from specific planetary metals, which is far beyond my skill set. Another method I've read concerns virgin parchment, which is made from the skin of an unborn lamb. With specialized ink that's not only blessed, but often mixed with rare ingredients like saffron, musk, or rose oil, to name a few. Another material sometimes utilized is pure white beeswax, again, outside of my skill set. While material correspondences can and do make a difference, I honestly find that the material selection is not nearly as important as, again, your intention and energy. Excuse me. Because of this, for seals I return to again and again, such as the archangels, the cardinal directions I mentioned earlier. I prefer constructing those from wood for durability. I reserve paper seals for one-off situations. An example of that is my current wife and I have been under spiritual attack for quite some time, and when they realized they could no longer get to us personally, they targeted our dog. I wanted to give him some protection while I worked on a more permanent counter to their attack, so I constructed a paper seal for Archangel Ariel, the Lioness of God, to hang above the area where he sleeps. Again, however, for the purposes of this video, we'll be using wood. Now, you can easily find pre-cut pieces of wood in any hobby shop, in the craft section of a lot of big box stores, or, of course, online shopping sites. Even if they come pre-sanded, I tend to give them additional sanding with fine grit sandpaper, as that helps instill my intent and personal energies into the material as I work. Now, here's where a bit of personal preference comes in. If it's within your skill set, you could etch the seal into the disc with a rotary tool, or you could even engrave it with a wood-burning tool. For this demonstration, however, I'm going to focus on two other techniques, the first of which is painting. Now, when painting, you can choose to either leave the background as undecorated wood, or you can paint it a solid color. If painting the background, you could also choose the color based upon that angel's correspondences. For example, the tradition I follow associates Michael with red and Uriel with green. For this video, however, I'll be going with just a flat black, not only because it provides a high contrast background, but also because of its ability to absorb energies. So once you have it painted and the paint is dry, you'll want to lightly sketch out the seal in pencil upon the painted background. If you've got a calibrated eye, so to speak, which I do not, you can draw the outer circles freehand. However, as I mentioned, I can't do that. Circles are extremely lopsided. So you can also use a compass. Likewise, my hands aren't quite steady enough for painting with a fine tip brush. I have the chunky little sausage fingers, and my manual dexterity is mainly reserved for video games. But anyhow, so like here I'm using a metallic silver paint pen. Again, you will want to work slowly and with focused intention. This is not something you want to rush through. You're putting your energies, channeling them into this seal that you're creating. Now, there's another method I use, not just for seals, but for a lot of other spiritual tools, and it honestly gives absolutely beautiful results. This method requires a bit less artistry and is therefore a good option for either the artistically challenged or those with limited hand mobility, or it's also good for extremely complex seals like the one for Metatron that I mentioned earlier. However, this also means that you'll want to channel even more focus and attention as you work to accommodate for any that might otherwise be lost when using this technique. So this is one of those situations I mentioned earlier where I'll go ahead and sand the wood even if the disc came pre-sanded. After sanding, I use a light-colored stain. Golden pecan is especially nice, for example. Um, Not only does this preserve the natural beauty of the wood grain, but the light color also provides excellent contrast for the darker lines of the seal. Now, after the stain is dried, I use either my inkjet or laser printer. The laser printer gives really nice, crisp, dark lines, by the way. But I'll use one of my printers to print a copy of the seal on transparent sticker paper, which is then carefully placed upon the stained wood. When applying the sticker, you will want to start in the center and smooth outward toward the seal's perimeter, as this will help uh, prevent any wrinkles or air bubbles from forming. Now, as you can see from the example on the screen, for my Raphael seal, I chose to have the lines of the seal itself in black and the background transparent. However, you can actually get a pretty cool effect by inverting that so that the background is solid black and the lines of the seal itself are clear. Um, you'd What you'd want to do here is you'd want to take glow-in-the-dark acrylic craft paint and paint the area of the wooden disc that will be covered by the seal and let it dry before applying the sticker. So using this method, the seal itself glows when the lights are off, which again is a pretty cool effect. Um, Regardless of which of these methods you'll use, you then want to physically, well, seal your seal with polyurethane or clear spray enamel to preserve and protect your work. After it's completely dry, I personally choose to ritually consecrate my constructed seals, where I ask for divine blessings and pass it through the four elements, and so on. One question that comes up fairly often is whether or not a seal loses its power over time, but personally, I don't think that's the right question, as again, its value doesn't necessarily come from magical energy stored inside it. Instead, it's more like a favorite meditation cushion or perhaps a cherished Bible where the value stems from the countless hours and moments of focused practice that it's supported. Um, Over months or even years, your relationship with the seal deepens and it becomes linked with your repeated acts of prayer, devotion, contemplation, and ritual. In that sense, it becomes spiritually significant because your own practice has made it so. Likewise, whether you view angels as independent spiritual intelligences, divine messengers, archetypal forces, or perhaps even something in between, um, their seals provide a visual language through which contemplation becomes easier and ritual becomes more intentional. And when approached with humility, reverence, and disciplined practice, these geometric figures can actually become reminders that the visible world has always pointed towards something greater than itself. So that is angelic seals in a nutshell. If you found this video helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you'd give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, as this helps more people discover my content and allows me to continue creating videos on angelology, tarot, Kabbalah, ceremonial magic, and all the usual suspects we cover here. Also, if you have questions or comments about today's topic, or if you'd like to link to an image of a seal you've personally created, I'd love to hear from you in the comments section. If you're interested in angelology and angel magic, which I'm assuming you are if you made it this far into the video, and would like to support this channel even further, I humbly ask that you consider purchasing a copy of my book, The Angelic Grimoire, Practical Magic with the Messengers of Light. Of course, this is never required, never expected, but it is always appreciated. Yep, no channel announcements this go around, so until next time, may your path be guided by wisdom, your practice be meaningful, and your journey lead you ever closer to the divine. And as always, walk in peace and light, friends.